So this is a video of the Six Pillar Century Ride out in Cambridge, Maryland this year, 2023. You can see here that we have the Ride with GPS tab open, and we are about to dive into the nitty-gritty details. So the first thing you'll know here is that we have about 250 feet of elevation gain over the course of this metric century, and it is a steady decline for those first 20, let's call it 23, 22 miles, and then after about 35 miles, it is a steady incline back into the finish. And you can see we are finishing with a whopping 10 feet of elevation gain. So you can see that it is not a hill-dependent course. That means that you are going to experience most of your troubles with the outside elements like wind or weather. Last one that you're going to be battling is other people out here, just plain and simple, okay? Expect for people to start out fast and heavy, and have them calm down later on around this back section right through here, where the wind will be aggressive right here. And then you're going to make this turn. Things will pick up again back up through here to go all the way to the finish line. Now, let's go and head over to this best bike split analysis tool. This is a general example of what you can expect out there on race day. Blue line is elevation. It's pretty much zilch, so I'm going to get rid of that. And you can see here that we have major variances in this speed across the distance. And that is pretty much down to the fact that the weather will pick up. You can see here that is forecasted right now to have a wind speed of about 6 to 10 miles an hour in the most windy portions of the race. And of course, we are way too far out to get specific with these weather assumptions or associations. So we're just going to talk in generic terms here until that race gets closer, and I'll be connecting with you individually so we can talk about that and how you can attack it. So with that, let's go and talk over our time analysis tool here. And we're going to go to the power, and you can see here that when we adjust it by just 1%, you're going to have a load of time savings for just 1% here. And that's down to the fact that this course is so flat, okay? If it was a little more hilly, we'd have specific gains to get in other areas, but because it is so flat, we are going to be experiencing gains in a lot of different areas across the board here. And if we go up, up, and up, you can see that these pretty much stay in the same areas for these time savings. So I'm going to go back down and I'm going to drop it so we can expand on some of this right here into our power plan. Again, I'm going to hide the elevation because it is flat. Now, when we're over here, I'm going to roll through this course one time, and I want you to keep your eyes on this rider right here. So I'm going to narrate as we go through, and I want you to see what the wind does out on this course. So this is the first couple of miles here, getting to mile 5 past that golf course. Then we're going to mile 10 right there, and then you can see that wind shifts all the way to mile 15. Then when we head to mile 20, same thing. 25, now it has shifted, and mile 30, it's still kind of holding in the same direction, but once we go to mile 34, 35, it is very, very different. Again, at mile 40, it's kind of holding consistent here, and then once we get to mile 43-ish, it starts to shift in our favor. 50 miles right here, same thing. We're going to make another couple of turns, and it is going to drop down again before we spike back up to the finish line. So that is the course in a nutshell, so let's dive in a little bit bigger. So we are going to zoom in on this first area right through here, these first 12 miles, very, very key area out on race day, not only because it's the first 12 miles, but because people are going to be going pretty crazy. This is going to be where you're going to establish the group you're going to be riding in probably for the majority of the ride afterwards. If you pick the wrong group, then you could have your day could be done, or it could be very, very difficult for you to get back into the group that you want. And by the time you get there, you've really exploded yourself, and you will not be able to follow when the final efforts come along. I know this isn't a race, but let's be honest, everyone does like to race these events. So let's treat it like a race here. So for these first couple of miles, you would do best to find your group, okay? If you can do that with a realistic level of effort, please do that. Of course, you can see there are a couple of power surges if my mouse will get out of the way. And there are a couple of power surges here, here, and here, and that is the first 3 miles, and then we're holding for that 3 to 5 miles, and that is because that wind. Look, take a look at that wind by the time we get here. It's forecasted to be a tailwind. It usually is right at this point. And then we make this left-hand turn. It's going to be heavily forested. This is going to be one of the coolest parts of the ride. It's going to happen before you know it, so make sure you don't miss it. Great canopy of trees right through here. You will be shaded if it is sunny. If it's raining, you're probably going to have a little bit of a break from the wind before you get out here and hang another left-hand turn here. And the wind is going to be in your face. That's almost always the case here. A big key here is to roll through this turn with very little effort so you cannot lose speed here. As you make this turn, effort will already pick up because you are turning into the wind. So if you could be fourth, fifth wheel, going into this spot right here, that'd be very, very beneficial for you. You'd be near the front and you wouldn't be executing a lot of extra unnecessary effort through here, because when you turn right, then it's going to be a direct headwind and a crosswind normally through one of my favorite portions of the course, which is right through here. As you continue going, you will slowly, it's a left-hand bend-ish on the road. It's a zigzaggy left, and then you ultimately do hang a left-hand turn, and that is going to be a headwind city right through there. And if you are chasing your group through this point right here, this is going to make this already difficult section even more difficult as you go. As you continue to go and you get onto the main circuit right through here, it is a headwind, and when you make this right-hand turn, happy days afterwards. You start to get a little bit of a crosswind, and that will continue to shift. So as we reset the zoom here from, we're going to go now 2 mile, let's back it up, and we're going to go through this next section right through here, mile 14-ish to mile 23. And there's going to be a very, very big theme here for these first couple of miles as we start to get to this right-hand bend right off of Church Creek, right through there. Hang a right-hand bend, and bam, it is on. Speed is going to be high. Effort level, not so much. The wind is going to be propelling you forward. It's going to be really, really happy days. So at this point, I would say you need to be in the group that you would like to be in, because everybody's going to be going very, very quickly, and it's going to be nearly impossible to bridge some of those gaps at those speeds. That's why this is such a difficult course, is because you have to make those smart decisions very, very early on. Okay, but as you continue through this area, your pace does start to drop here. Okay, it does start to drop naturally, and that is, again, down to the weather. You see 24 miles an hour for this athlete in particular, and then by the end or near the bottom of that course right there, it is down to 21-ish miles per hour. It is very common for athletes to overdo this section, wanting that initial pace, that 24 miles an hour or whatever you are targeted at, and trying to stay there as long as possible. Watch your power output here, because this area right through here is a notorious power drainer right through here. You can keep your speed up very, very easily, right? Because you are going to have that tailwind. You're probably going to be around a lot more people here. It's just going to be easier to push through this. And let's face it, you're not going to be going into a headwind, so it's just one less thing to think about, and you're going to be convinced that, oh, this is the pace for me. This is where I need to be. But as we reset the zoom here and we go to the bottom of the course, which is a big key to the course right through here before we make that last left-hand turn right at the bottom here, you'll notice that that speed is dropping big time. Think back to that previous course right up through here, and now we're over here, and our speed is at 18 miles an hour. So a 6 mile per hour swing right through here, and that is down to, take a look at this little guy right through here. Take a look at that, almost a direct headwind, at least forecasted, and in my experience, you almost always have a little bit of a wind through this spot right here. We are zigzagging, and you are going to find some speed through here just because that wind is shifting as I go through my cursor, and you can see it over the guy right there. It is shifting. You will be able to go fast, but again, this quick speed right here is it's almost a trick, okay? Because that speed will go up, and you'll say, hey, I'm going to hold this. I'm on a flat course. I should be able to hold this. This should be easy. And so you're going to try, and you're going to try, and you're going to try. And if you do that, this power targets that you have, your power is going to be way up here in reality. And as you start to go through the hardest section, of course, you make that one of these last turns to go back in, then you're going to be met with some very unfortunate news, because as we do make that turn at the bottom of, let's zoom in here, and this can be a longer section here. Because as you do start to make that turn, again, there are going to be places where we do have a tailwind or a cross tailwind. And speed is going to be high, absolutely. Right here, we are forecasted at, again, 23 miles an hour. But again, as we keep going, that pace is going to drop naturally because of the wind. Your power will go up a little bit through here. There is some elevation gain, a very minimal. But again, that speed right here is down to the wind. So if you are in a group and you are able to kind of hide out a little bit, this would be the place to do it, especially from mile 34 to 40 miles, because other people, if they want to do the work for you and even out this speed, sure, go for it. If you're just along for the ride, absolutely, and your power is where it needs to be, sure, why not? After you get to mile 40, you do bend left and you are headed back into town, and officially you will be welcomed with a tailwind or a cross tailwind as usual. All right, if we do reset the zoom here, the very last time coming back into town, we're going to highlight the rest of our spot right here. You can see that as we start to come off that main circuit here, our speed does go, it dips and then slowly starts to come back up, and we claw, and then once we get into my favorite section, it's called the cornfield section, your speed will naturally come down again. This area, it's just random. You're probably going to have a swirling wind. You usually do have a swirling wind in here, so just expect wind everywhere. Okay, if you did want to make your last big attack, you should probably do so somewhere in between mile 49 and 52 to shave that group down. Afterwards, when you're coming back into town, you're going to make a right-hand turn right there away from that canopy that you just went under at the very beginning, right through here. Mile 52 comes, and your pace, your speed is going to drop big time. Again, another notorious headwind spot, but as you go and you keep those miles going and keep those cranks turning, the speed will naturally start to creep up again before you make your zigzags back into town, where the speed will pick up again because you have buildings and other items to stop or break up that wind, and it's not just a straight shot. So again, this would be another natural area where you can throw down another attack to shave off your group, or really put a hurting on the other people if you wanted to. And again, if you have a group that's working together and you have a couple people that are really putting themselves on the line, just sit in. There's no point, because if you go around them and you are barely able to keep the pace up and you're blowing up and all of a sudden you have 20, 30 people coming up behind you, or 5, then, you just totally ruined it. So wait until that time. If you're feeling really good, shave the group down and then make your place somewhere in here towards the finish line. And that is the 6 Pillars Century Ride in Cambridge, Maryland, 2023 in a nutshell. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'll be happy to talk to you about it.